Good Thursday morning to you, Coach.
Happy Thursday, man. October. It is October.
We are in Rocktober, man.
Yeah, Rocktober. And what is this, like episode 204 of the Crushing Iron Triathlon podcast?
I think it is. 204 episodes every Monday and Thursday with Mike and Coach Robbie.
For the last basically 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years of that.
Yeah.
When's taper, dude?
Shoot, serious.
When's the podcast taper?
Man, the podcast taper might be like the week after Louisville. Take a little time to, rejuvenate and bounce back. But hey, we'll be there. We've done podcasts on the road, 2 races. We've done podcasts the days after, the immediate day after we've raced. We've come to you on holidays. Hey, we do the best we can, but we're fortunate enough to have a really, really great audience and awesome listeners and athletes that participate in our closed group on Facebook, Crushing Iron Group. So it is. What?
Well, I was going to say, by the way, if you have sent a request to that closed group and haven't been let in there yet, please send us an email at crushingiron@gmail.com and let us know you're waiting, that you've actually listened to the podcast, because that's really kind of the only prerequisite that we're having. We're trying to keep a little eye on the group from getting into a snowball of out of controlness, similar to some of these other race groups and things like that. We just want to keep keep the shape and culture of the group and go in the right direction. So just send us an email. We'll let you in there if you haven't answered the only question.
Yeah, and it's not a tough one.
It's a tough one. It's just, what do you like about the podcast? And a lot of people just haven't answered it. So we don't even know if you know about the podcast. And if you do, we'll be happy to let you in there. The other thing is, if you get, give us a shot, because a lot of times we kind of meander around at the beginning, but we always get into something that everybody tells us is valuable. And a lot of people write us and say amazing things about what they've experienced through the podcast and how it's helped them race. And we heard it a lot this weekend. On the race course, I'll be standing out there, and some people said that I really helped them, or not I, you and I helped them, that I was the sole reason.
I am the sole reason for their existence and all of their performance and met expectations. Thank you all, Mike Tarrolly.
And I take that compliment with grace.
Oh, the king of humility. So, you're what? You're what, 9-10 days out or whatever?
It's 10 days. 10 days from the race right now.
Mm-hmm. How are you feeling?
I feel pretty good. Yeah, it is a taper. I'm still not, I want to say, yesterday wasn't hard, but I went after it a little bit. I still got 10 days. Next week will be nice and chill. A couple days off next week. So I feel pretty good. I went out I had a little run last night. My legs had that old flat feel again.
Yeah.
The old, I think I'm flying, and I look down and it's a 10-minute pace.
Hey, which is right there in your wheelhouse, 10:17.
Yeah, 10:17. Then I'm like, is the 10:17 a failure?
Nah, no such thing.
No, but, the good news is when you get done with some of these runs and you're still in the mood to run, that goes a long ways.
Yep, it does. And have you successfully removed yourself from all Ironman Louisville Facebook groups?
I haven't gotten out of there because
is it because you want to participate or observe the theater from afar, or are you in there stoking the flames of anxiety and last minute self-doubt and chaos?
Well, I posted that picture of the forecast. It was 70 degrees, and then on race day it was 90. And then
you posted it?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay.
But no, I feel like the main reason I'm staying in there is because I don't want to be cut out of there, and it is kind of part of our business. So I'm just not looking at it, because it can really go down some rabbit holes.
Well, then why just not leave it for good?
Oh, leave it forget. Well, because I wanna be in tune with the people, because we're doing a podcast here.
Yeah. Well, okay.
I mean,
Okay.
it just may be a resource. Is what I'm getting at some point.
So you're saying it'll be a resource for us to like use some of their topics.
Yeah, at some point, and just what's on people's minds. I mean, 1 out of every 10 posts in there is pretty solid.
10% success rate.
If
okay.
that.
Yeah, that's fine. And the weather is looking, no,
it was
up and down, but I mean, who cares?
That's what I said. I'm doing those sort of daily updates on YouTube where I'll go live. Follow Crushing Iron on YouTube if you want to get a notice when I go on there. I've been kind of talking about my daily ventures, and now I'm sort of focused on taper. And the other night I was talking about how I do an early pack with gear and stuff like that. I have a drawer that I have all my stuff in over the years, like the weird stuff, not weird stuff, but like the miscellaneous things where, whether it be race belts or CO2 things or whatever the case is. I got a big drawer, and I pulled that out the other day, and I just kind of grabbed everything I thought might be reasonable depending on where the weather might be or whatever the case is. And I grabbed everything from arm warmers and toe covers to those cool down rags, and I just threw all that backup kind of like extra stuff in a backpack, and I got that out of my hair. And later this week or this weekend, I'll probably start loading up the actual stuff that I know I'll need for the race. If it's just a normal day, the race belts and my nutrition and things like that will start going into separate piles this week. But I like having that sort of, I like have a just weird like tape and anything that could be something, and I just stuff it in a backpack, and it's real small. But it's kind of that security blanket of, man, did I bring on it? Yeah, I got it. Okay.
And for the most part, I mean, if you forget something, they're going to either have it at the expo or you can get it at the store.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, but you definitely pack. I got kind of, surprised in Texas with the weather and I was lucky enough to have a summer we were staying with, and I had like I was like a patchwork, put together outfit of putting things on with one pink arm warmer, one black arm warmer, all that kind of stuff. But it actually ended up, I feel like it was my best race of the year. But definitely try to come prepared. I mean, I think everyone overpacks for these races, and but it's always better probably to overpack than it is to underpack, because while you can get it at the expo, more than likely the chances are that if it's a last minute thing that you have to have at the expo, other people are going to be in that same boat and they may run out. And then obviously like stores and stuff. But yeah, I mean, you've probably got everything you need. You just got to look, and don't look at like purchasing, like dropping a couple $100 race week on something you may use. It's just, I mean, come on, let's not go that route.
Yeah,
but definitely start packing and lay things out just so you can kind of get a good eyeball on it, and think, and always, two of the most underrated things, three things that you should always have in your suitcase: black electrical tape, zip ties, and my favorite, a nice pair of
scissors.
3 things you should always have in your suitcase. Scissors for anything and everything you need to cut, especially the race number they give you to put on your bike. They give it to you as if your down tube is like 4 yards in width. And everybody spends like all this money on these bikes, and then you see like bike frame stickers like flapping in the wind, or paper cutting the inside of your thighs for 112 miles, and nobody needs that.
No, that's a bad scene.
Yep, and also I use it to cut the sticker down for my helmet. It's just nice to make things look clean, nice and tight.
Yeah.
Zip ties are great.
Well, on the scissors thing, I just want to point out again, because I've mentioned this before, but when you're cutting your sticker, make sure you keep the Ironman logo on there, because they're checking that, and because if it's just a number, they could think it's from any race or whatever. So when you're wheeling your bike in, they might give you a little bit of a pushback about, hey, wait, what? I don't see the logo. Is this really from our race or whatever? So just cut around the top of that. Make sure the logo's on there so they know it's legit. Zip ties.
Zip ties. I always have them there just in case any kind of like last minute bottle cage incident happens, or your hydration system. It's always a very, something breaks or you forget a piece to something. It's really easy just to take a bottle cage, take a zip tie, and put it in between your air bars. Mm-hmm. It's just super easy. So those are nice to have for pretty much anything. And then black electrical tape, I always have on hand just in case, like your bar tape on your bars, your drops, or your air bar extensions can kind of come loose. You don't really need extra bar tape, especially if you've already gotten it done. You might just need to like do a little extra wrap on the bottom of it to make sure that it stays down pat, because I know sometimes after you're riding for a little bit, you kind of the adhesive part will actually kind of like lip up because it's kind of coming loose, and you don't want to deal with that either. So those are 3 little things that I always like to have, kind of like my standard backups.
I like to bring I carry my tubes and CO2 in a water bottle in my back cage, and I like to wrap it with fresh duct tape. So I carry duct tape, and for the same reason you were just mentioning, if something like weird happened on there, you might you can just pull it off the bottle and use it as a quick fix on something if you need duct tape too. That's how I carry duct tape.
Yep, it's and I think there was one last thing that I carry. I can't remember it now, but those are the things. And hey, if it's going to be windy and it might be rainy, pack a few extra plastic grocery bags. You never know when you're going to need them. That has been
go shopping out there.
If you need to, go shopping. But that's pick up a few things in the grocery. But that's been one of the favorites. So always pack appropriately. Pack things, and those are some nice little things that you may not. Rubber bands are a good one too. You use duct tape on your rear bottle cage. I like to use rubber bands. I know at Louisville last year I lost my rear nutrition bottle within like the first 3 miles, because I think first 3 or 4 you go over those railroad tracks,
sure,
and going out on River Road, and that's also like the I think the bumpiest road, the portion of the whole course is that first little couple miles getting out of town. I lost. This was before I started locking things down with the rubber band. I thought I had a nice rear cage and eject proof. It's like whatever. It's not eject proof.
No.
We can land people on the moon, but we can't get water bottles or cages that won't get eject. So I started doing the rubber band thing, and I have yet to have a failure. So I take the rubber band and loop it around the nipple of the bottle, and then just kind of loop it to the cage in one of the crevices, and that way it will not go anywhere. And then when I need it, I can just take my pointer finger and loop it up, detach it, and grab my bottle if and when I need it.
That's a good tip, man.
Thanks, man. You got a topic today? You got something you wanna roll with?
I thought we could actually, since it's been 4 days since Chattanooga, I'm sure you've gotten a lot of feedback or things that you've learned from the athletes and things like that. Or, we've gotten a lot of feedback on how great it was to have, a team at the race site. We had 10 athletes racing, a little bit more kind of hanging around the hotel and just spending time together throughout the weekend. How much nicer that is than maybe going to a race solo, or maybe with nobody else around. So that that's that sort of community piece that really helps at races. That's really kind of what I had. I have a topic for next time, but it's not ready yet.
It's not ready yet.
No, I meant to send you some preamble stuff.
Oh, well, then, hey, we're still going to be back next week. So, no, I mean, there's a lot to digest. And, we had an athlete email you and I both, one that we've worked with for over a year. And, his was about the race and remembering, your why and kind of like losing your way sometimes. And it's difficult. And it's this athlete had really high aspirations, as I did as well. And based on some other things, and while you can get disappointed, like it's I think athletes lose their why. I think this John Gordon, who I refer to a lot, writes a lot of books that I just absolutely love. And he says that you never, if you something like you will never lose your way if you don't lose your why. And same things with work. He was like, if you ever find yourself dejected at work or hating it, remember your why. Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of thing that will keep you going. And I think as athletes and coaches, sometimes we lose our way when we forget our why. And yeah. I think it's a hard balance with athletes, regardless of experience, athletic ability, race distance, performance expectations, that we attach ourselves to these quote unquote goals and these expectations and these desires, which we're all going to have, especially if you're really searching hard for this this one great performance. Mm-hmm. And as a coach too, sometimes I admit, like, I have to remind myself too of like how great, because as coaches, it's like a lot of times we'll just nitpick ourselves. Maybe I could have done this better. Maybe I could have done this better. And it's a hard juggling act. Like it's hard to explain to somebody who doesn't coach or who doesn't coach this way, that the clock is only and the clock in their time is only just but a sliver of what's at stake on that day, because people put their emotional and mental, they put so much emotional and mental weight behind these events and these life moments, that they want everything to go well. Mm-hmm. And as much as like a time, because listen, you want to see athletes progress, and if they progress, then you should see some sort of personal record here and there. But you should all, like, as a coach, is like PRs are important, but almost what's just as, if not more important, is perspective. Like, I feel like coaches have or at least they should have a very large role, and should take a huge responsibility in helping athletes work with or change or modify or enhance their perspective in a positive way. And when you have these athletes race, when my first thought is like, are you happy? Because like, if you're not happy, then I'm not happy. I could care less what your what your time is. If you're not happy, then it's hard for me to be happy, because it's an emotional and mental event just as it is a physical. But sometimes I also outperform at the side. Like if you coach enough athletes, you're never going to have a race where they're all going to have the greatest race ever. You're just not. But it's sometimes like you have to sit back too, and I think, at least for me as a coach, I don't do very well with compliments and stuff like that. I'm just always looking to get things better. It's just my mentality, and it's a flaw too, I think. But kind of like I said on Monday's podcast, it was like, hey, we had 10 athletes show up healthy and happy and ready to race, and they all finished. Mm-hmm. And in 10 days from now, I'll have 25 athletes at one Ironman who are all going to show up healthy. Well, they're not going to be happy, probably not yet, because they're going through taper tantrums, but they'll be happy when they get there. But just what an accomplishment that is in general for me as a coach, to get them all there healthy and happy for the most part, until they quit having these like weather freakouts in the Ironman Louisville Facebook page. But that's always the ultimate that we forget, because we've been doing this for so long that we forget that like just getting to be able to start the day is such a blessing, and that takes so much time and commitment to just get there, and then just to remember what we do and what we say and how we perform and how we carry ourselves very much defines and impacts ourselves, but we also have the opportunity to really impact other people. And that was kind of like the gist of what this athlete's race report was about. It wasn't about numbers. It was about, just kind of remembering why we have a burning desire to get better and to love this sport. Rarely has anything to do with an obsession with time, because those things won't last. They cause burnout. It's the connection in the community and impacting other people in a positive way that allows you to kind of sustain that internal, inferno.
And I think we definitely forget the impact that we have on other people when we do these kind of sport or these kind of races. I mean, you just, it's just sort of like, I remember back to when I first started, and I did my race, and of course you get a lot of accolades from your friends and your close people, and especially after you finish your first, and then like a year later I would start getting all these random emails from people I wasn't even thinking about or I grew up with or whatever, and they just were like, I just want to let you know you really inspired me, but I hadn't heard that. So I think there's a lot of people that are continually impressed, and you start doing a few of these Ironman races and you kind of start taking it for granted, and you don't realize that this ongoing pursuit of something exceptional, and like just this quest for getting better and continuing to do things that scare you and push the envelope is always touching somebody. And obviously that's what our athlete's race report was kind of centered on, was that he may have not been happy with his race necessarily, but someone very dear to him said that he was very moved and thought so highly of him for doing it again, and he was very impressed, so those are the things. I think that's great. I think you kind of talked about like going into these races, and I just want to make a quick analogy, because I've been obviously, and I don't want to talk about baseball, but I'm going to make an analogy here.
Good, because I can't even
playoff season
talk.
And the reason I'm going to do it is because I always compare a baseball season kind of like to doing an Ironman. It's 162 games, and you have to pace yourself, and you can't get overly excited. And what's interesting about the playoffs to me is that you always see the teams that are staying within themselves and doing the little things are the ones that succeed in the playoffs. But it's kind of the opposite in a way, because during the season everybody's trying to hit home runs, and they're trying to show out and everything like that. But then it comes to playoffs, and if they can't do the little things and they can't rein themselves in, you see superstars all the time will strike out like 15 times in a series, and they just can't figure it out. But I think in Ironman, in some ways it's the opposite, because people will get to the race and they'll start swinging for the fences, and trying to do things they can't do.
And trying to be somebody they're not.
Right. And so, but I was just going to point that out as sort of like, hey, you've trained for 6 to 10 months to a year or whatever for this race coming up, and all of a sudden you think you're going to do something that you've never done. Good luck.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that that there's every once in a while something amazing happens, some kind of miracle, but for the most part, I think the best way to go into a race like this is just be thinking small. Like you always talk about the little things. Just take it one step at a time, and be in the moment, and not try to get too far ahead of yourself in the race, and just do what you're doing. And those small, they one of the announcers the other day made a great point. He said that playing small gives you big results. you know. And I just thought that was a really cool analogy that applies to racing here.
Well, if you don't focus on the first 10 feet in front of you, how do you expect to go the next 100 miles without getting lost?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people in taper right now thinking about the finish line, you know, and it's let's stay within ourselves. It's hard. It's very hard.
It is hard, and I think it's normal to think at the finish line, but you, like, so many times when things happen or things you forget things that, you know, it's like you should always go back to like getting, like, focusing on the day-to-day is what's going to get you to the end. And you have to treat every moment and every session, every workout, and every day as the most important thing. So for your Ironman, the most important thing to start is going to be how you swim. And then the next most important thing is going to be how well you do in T1. Do you get everything you need? Do you focus? Do you get everything dressed? Do you leave everything you need to? Is everything locked down? Good. And the next important thing is going to be how you carry yourself on the bike. You know, then it's like, it's not going to be like, if you immediately get out of the water, and so many people will do this, I guarantee you, somebody listening to this podcast right now is going to do this. They're going to get out of the water and they're going to think, oh, my PR is shot. Or my goal is gone. And it's going to ruin their day. Or somebody's going to come in under time or real fast and think, oh man, I'm going to crush my PR today. It's all but a moment. Like, you can't project and anticipate. You could have the worst swim ever and still have one of your better races overall. But it's about how you have to look at it inch by inch, foot by foot, and not 50 mile by 50 mile. Because that, you know, and because if you do, then you forget something along the way. And or you try, like you said, the biggest thing, you know, like I said about the swim, you come out of the swim in like the current super fast. You didn't really do anything special, no offense. But if the current is just cranking and you come out like 10 minutes faster than you thought, you didn't do anything. Again, no offense, but you didn't do anything. You didn't just become some super swimmer overnight. It doesn't mean you're having this special day. It just means the current was strong and you got swept downriver 10 minutes faster than you would have. But you're going to hop on the bike thinking either A, you might play it a little more safe because you're like, I got 10 minutes in the bank. So you're playing to an eventual time when you've got 10 hours left of racing, which is like an eternity. It's like you know, your Monday goes great and you're like, oh dude, this week's gonna be awesome. And then Thursday you get just like dominated. And you're like, because it's just like, you know, we talk about it on, you know, like the funny, like you spill your cup of coffee in the morning and the first thing you're like, today's gonna be terrible, you know, and you like jump to this conclusion. It's not how you start the day, it's how you end it. And it's not how you start the week, it's how you end it. The same with the race, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And people will just attach themselves to these eventual outcomes when they're going to have 112 miles of decision making and fueling and pacing and even more decisions and other people and special needs and aid stations and more people, and they're going to have to, but they're going to have already have this like number in their mind. That's what everybody does it, and I think it's normal because I think we should all have kind of an idea of maybe where we might come out. But it shouldn't dictate the next, you know, what you feel like you're going to do on mile 26 of the run.
Right.
It should just concrete you into continuing to be patient and taking things mile by mile, because there's a lot of things that are going to happen and a lot of decisions that are yet to be made. And
on the opposite side of that coin, if you come out 10 minutes slower than you hoped on the swim, you can't make up that 10 minutes on your run to your transition bag. You know what I mean? So it's like,
especially not.
I mean, really, I've been on that side of the coin too, where I've come out and been very disappointed with my swim, and I've just like immediately like a switch flips up, and I just start going for it, and The same deal as you can't make it up in the first 20 minutes of your ride. You might be able to, but it's a bad idea.
And you'll see a lot of people doing that too.
Yeah. So, I just think if you come out 10 minutes or 15 minutes behind what you thought on your swim, if you have ideas in mind, shave 7 minutes off on the bike and try and shave 7 minutes off on the run over the whole course. You know what I mean? Like, that's really a...
Or don't even try to shave it.
Right.
Just stick to your plan and then see what happens.
Yeah.
Because if you chase minutes,
mm-hmm.
if you chase minutes on the bike and you chase minutes on the first 13 miles of the run, you're more likely to lose twice as many minutes as you're chasing.
It's true.
Instead of just sticking to your plan. Like, just because you had a bad swim, quote unquote a bad swim, even though it was maybe been a good one, you're just expectations. That's another thing. It's like, how off and how realistic and how objective are your actual goal expectations? Like, let's not be an idiot here. Let's live in reality with our expectations on our race
mm-hmm.
and on our splits. So you're going to have athletes that go out there and are going to come out 10 minutes, quote unquote, slower than what they expected to.
Mm-hmm.
First question is, are those expectations rooted in reality and previous
based on your 100 time?
Exactly, or based on your, like, here's the typical one. I don't know why I'm so much slower in the pool or in open water than I am in the pool. And then you go watch them in the pool and they push off the wall like they are trying to blast off to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And they do it 4 times, and they click their watch for their lap button like 3 meters before the wall. And as they push up, I'm like, oh, no wonder what you're seeing isn't even real. But then they're going to think that they need to chase these minutes. Preach it, Maddie. They're going to try. Amen. They're going to chase these minutes that they probably don't even need to chase or deserve to chase, and they're going to ruin their bike because of some ridiculous or misguided guess.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to ruin their whole race.
Yeah.
And you just have to stick within yourselves, know yourself, and be patient, because reaching and trying to quote unquote make up time is the worst idea you'll ever do.
Yeah.
To make up time.
All right. Yeah. It's certainly not in the first 20 miles. It's like, yeah, to get that mentality in there. It's like you can, if you just settle into your race, and by the end of it, if you're starting to feel a little bit better, do your thing. And the other thing about the swim is, and that's such a great point, is it's just apples and oranges. I mean, you could end up swimming 300 or 400 extra meters in open water because you don't have a line on the bottom of the lake or the river,
mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
you're going further. That's why you're not actually, maybe you may be swimming what you think you can swim, but you just put 400 extra meters on a 2.4 mile swim, and your pace is going to be, quote unquote lower.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of, but err on the side of high or slow for a goal,
or err on the side. Yeah, err on the side of just taking it as it comes.
Mm-hmm.
And just sticking to your game, stick to your game plan. And the time will be what it will be. Like, the only thing you have control over is sticking to your game plan. And not making poor decisions. Everything else will just kind of be what it'll be. I know people hate hearing that, but it's your ability to execute race day that has the ultimate effect on how things will end up at the end of the day. Not your obsession over holding a time, or should I? But you'll see people sprinting out of T1. You'll see people, hysterically trying to mount their bikes and keeling over in slow motion after they cross the line, trying to get on their bike after T1. You'll see people burning matches, flying the first 5 miles, especially in the Louisville bike course, because it is fairly fast. Because here's the awesome mentality you're gonna have. I got to get my mile per hour up because I know I'm gonna lose it on some of the hills.
Mm.
And then you're gonna get back to like mile 78 or 80 on the return trip as you're finishing off like the back half of that loop,
mm-hmm.
where it's It's not
At
flat.
Louisville.
Yeah, at Louisville, but it's not pancake flat, but it's advantageous in terms of the hills are gone, and if you break it down and like nitpick it, it's actually, I think, a negative elevation. Yeah, but you'll see people who are sitting up in their aero bars, soft pedaling, because they went to town the first 20 miles. And you'll have all these people just passing them right and left, that they passed the first 10 miles of the bike.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be that person. Don't be that person sitting up thinking, God, I blew. Because I can tell you right now, there is no better feeling than to be the person passing people the last 20 miles of the bike. Like, the confidence that gives you going into the run is second to none. And that's usually a good indicator on my end too. Like when I'm looking at like athletes and their splits, like, did they negative split? And if they negative split, then I'm usually thinking, yeah, they definitely paced well. Mm-hmm. And they'll say, hey, I was passing people right and left on the last 30 miles. That is what's going to set you up for success going into the run. So again, while you might think that, the first 10 miles is where you can really put, your excitement's going to get a hold of you, but I can promise you that excitement's going to go away very, very, very quick if you make the turn coming to head back into town, if you're doing Louisville and you've burned all your biscuits and you're sitting up and you're thinking, oh my God, how am I going to make it through a marathon? Mm. Instead of chomping at the bit, passing people thinking, I can't wait to run this thing.
Yeah. Man, what a goal.
That's it. But I mean, it's not hard. It's the thing. It's like, it's not. It's just like, stay within yourself and be smart. But so many people just don't want to because especially impulsive athletes, like, you just relax and calm down and wait to get things moving. Like, because, we live in just a society in general that breeds like, gotta have it now, gotta do it now, look at me, instead of end goal, end result, and then let's see what happens. We'd rather buy a plant than buy a seed. Think of a lot of people want to buy the plant and they just don't want to take care of it, but you plant the seed, you got to take care of it if you want to see any results. Mm-hmm. And when you have these races like this, people have these mind, and then they'll start chasing it, obsessing over, I've got to maintain this mile per hour average. 18.98 is my goal for the day. I put my number in best bike split. I put my number in tri-calc. I've got to hold 18.98. So that means I got to average this, and this, and they're totally not even taking into account how they might feel, how the weather is, what the wind is like, all these kind of things, and then they will willfully go out of their zone and crank it up hills or smash it down hills to hold on as best they can to this 18.98 number. And then at mile 90, they see it trickling down to 18.9. 18.85, 18.7, 18 miles an hour. Oh shit, I'm at 17.9 because I blew my load.
Oh boy, that's not a good feeling.
My but everybody's going to do it.
My hand's raised.
Yeah, so many people will do it, and that's why I know it's hard if you don't have a power meter or a heart rate or whatever it is. It's hard to just go by effort. But I had this conversation with an athlete before Chattanooga. Should I have average miles per hour on my Garmin or whatever? I said no. The first choices of the fields you should have on your bike computer are the things that you can 100% control. You can control your power. You can control, so in terms of like your average power, your normalized power, you can control that. That's always up to you. It's regardless of temperature and conditions. You can also control your heart rate. If you want to put cadence on there, you can control your cadence. Those are things you can always ultimately 100% control. you cannot control mile per hour. Totally. Because it's dependent on wind, heat, how cold it is, all that kind of stuff. So always lean towards only having fields that show you and give you what you can control the most, which leads to being able to execute as best you can. If you want to switch over fields like at mile 95 or 100 just to see, then see. Most people are going to do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not going to change anything. You're not going to get some like superpowers in the legs that all of a sudden make you like, Chris Froome going down the last 20 miles just because you have 0.2 miles an hour to make up. Just keep sticking to your plan, because a plan is what got you there. It's your ability to stick to it and not deviate from it for 10, 12, 14, 15 hours, 16 hours. That's going to ultimately get you to the line the quickest, not your obsession with the time that'll be there at the end.
It's good advice. That's good advice. I've
talking to you
I've
too.
made that mistake. I know. I feel like you're just like hammering it in right now.
Into you, man.
I'm just like I just snuck off and took my bike computer off of average miles per hour. But I think it's probably I'm sure that I'll be checking it on occasion. But it for me, someone who will not have power going or heart rate, I probably should just miles per hour and then maybe like max speed or something, and just I just, for me, like to maybe ballpark that current speed, like if I feel like like on stuff that I'm used to doing all the time, like what I think I know I can handle. And the power meter experience has really given me a good sort of a better understanding of effort. So that's what I've been kind of exploring, and it's just like, am I, like I have this thing too where, and I don't know if this is like legit or not, but I think, once I don't want to say like I come out of my saddle or anything like that, but sometimes I feel myself kind of slacking a little bit. We talk about opening up your legs and kind of warming them up and stuff like that. When I hit like I like to know that I can, if you've got a little momentum, for example, coming down just a short hill or whatever, but if you can, step on that just a little bit and get your miles per hour up, it's just as easy to go a little bit faster. You know what I'm saying? Like on a flat or something like that for me. Now, I could be overanalyzing that or whatever, but I don't want to be underperforming, even though that's probably the safe side of that equation. Is that even making any sense?
Yeah, but I mean, here's the thing, is that it is very hard for most athletes, to judge incline, decline, false flats on terrain, small to slight headwinds or tailwinds.
Mm-hmm.
It's especially hard for them to be able to pick headwinds. Now, huge headwinds and huge tailwinds, obviously, like in Texas, I knew that cruising at 220 watts wasn't really getting me 29 miles an hour, But so I knew what was coming. On the flip side, I knew that I was going to probably have to push 230 just to like get close to 20. But here's the thing: is that if you obsess over miles per hour or mile per hour average, you might be getting a slight tailwind on the way out, giving you an extra half to mile, and you might slow yourself down thinking you're going too fast.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of taking advantage of free speed.
Mm-hmm.
Versus the flip side, there could be more than likely there's usually a headwind on the way out or the headwind on the way back at Louisville, for example, and you might not feel it, but a 5 to 6 mile an hour headwind is going to make things difficult. So instead of just staying in your zone like you should be and keeping things under control and being okay with the mile per hour dropping, because it should, you increase your energy expenditure and pressure to the pedals and raise your heart rate and raise your effort when you shouldn't. And so like that's why it's so difficult to have athletes that are obsessed with that and that look at that, because it more oftentimes it ruins races more than it ever helps. It I'd say 9 times out of 10 it ruins races because people will either underperform on certain areas. Like let's say you have the athlete that's going out of town and they get a slight tailwind. They don't know. They're like, I gotta back it down. So they lowered their effort too much and they lost free speed. And then what's going to happen is later down the road, it would have been nice to have that, because you weren't going to have used extra effort. And now on the way back, you're doing that. The same thing you got about when we talked about, Tim the triathlete getting out of the water. Now what's he trying to do the last 20? He's trying to make up time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to make up time, spending more energy going against a headwind. And so that's why things that have even a slight percentage of things you can't control, that's what makes them that's what makes them more likely to interfere with your execution than complement it.
Mm-hmm. Well, what you're saying there, yeah, it's almost like that last 30, 40 miles or whatever you're coming out here. I mean, the best idea is for you to figure out how to stay within yourself long enough so you can keep an arrow for more of that, because I mean that mile an hour differentiation right there is going to be huge.
Yeah, it's listen, it's I think especially for athletes who don't have like heart rate or power to go by, or even power to go by, I usually tell them this: for the first 40 to 50 miles of the Ironman bike course, if you feel like you're going just about right, you're going too fast. If you feel like you're going too slow, you're just about right. Because your legs are going to be so fresh, the adrenaline's going to be firing, you're going to be ready to rock in your the first part of the race, that things aren't necessarily what they seem. So it's always better to listen. The only way you're going to make up time is by not trying to make up time. Because if you go the first 40 miles, you're not wasting time and you're not wasting energy. And it's not like it's like, oh well, you had this amount of energy to burn the first 40 miles and you didn't get to use it, so we're taking it away and you can't use it the last 50 miles. Or I've never had an athlete in the history of coaching say, yeah, you know what, I think I underbiked and I really could have and I really had just too much left on the run. Said no one ever, and so more times than not, it's either I think I overbiked and it hurt me on the run, or thank God I didn't go higher because I needed it on the run. It's all about energy expenditure. It's all about, how much you have for the whole day. So going a little, losing, and I have to drill this into my head even as a coach, and we talked about it before, I think, is that, I like when I'm tracking people at races, I totally forget and lose objectivity when it comes to how I know like you should race and what actually matters. Because 30 minutes on the bike means almost nothing to athletes on the run. 1 minute and like 10 seconds, I think it comes down to, per mile difference. The difference. So yeah, let's say you go out and crush a 5.5 hour bike split, and you're like, God, crushed it, man. I'm gonna kill it. Come flying out of T2, and your ability goes from like a 9-minute pace drops to an 11 pace. You just gave up 50 minutes on the marathon. Or no, you gave up 30 minutes on the marathon, getting you right back to where you should have been. Whereas you could have taken it real chill, executed perfectly, and done a 6-hour bike split, and then you're able to run 9-minute pace for the whole marathon instead of that 10.5, and you've all but made up and then surpassed what your time would have been.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, you leave the door open a little, for something.
You leave the door open to do it, not,
it's
again,
like, do you want to like crush the last 25 miles of the bike, or do you want to crush the last 8 miles of the run? I mean, your odds of doing the latter are almost nil.
Mm-hmm.
If you get out of your, you get too impatient. I guess that's the bottom line. And then I would like to. Can I use one more baseball analogy? Because it was amazing.
Oh, God. Yeah, sure.
Well, because it's about chasing.
It's
about chasing something. And it's about if you're going to be playing the odds, right? If you're going to gamble out there and you want to play the odds, play the safe odds, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was watching the Cubs Rockies game the other night, and it was in the 13th inning, and it was tied, obviously. Or no, actually, the Rockies had just taken the lead, but the Cubs were at home, and their leadoff hitter was a guy that they brought up on the roster just to steal a base in that game. I mean, literally, he had batted 15 times that year, and I think he had one hit for the whole season.
Yeah.
And he was a speed merchant, and he happened to be, and they brought him in. He did steal a base in like the ninth or something like that, but they burned their roster, so he had to keep playing. And he led off the 13th, and A-Rod, who I wasn't a huge fan of him as a player, but I like him in the booth because he's got great analysis, and he said, this guy has to bunt. He can't even try and swing right now because he's so fast, and, the minute he gets on first base, he's got a double.
Weapon.
He's got a double, because he literally is one of those guys that is like 95% safe on stolen base. I mean, it's insane. But so he tried to bunt once, and then he missed a pitch, and then the count got to full. So it's full count, and you're leading off the 13th inning, and, the pitcher has to throw a strike, right? Or, so A-Rod said before that at bat, he said, this guy, the smart thing to do here is take, not even swing. He said because the odds of him getting a hit are very low as it is.
Yeah.
And the odds of this guy throwing a strike are about 50-50. So take your chances and don't swing. And you know what he did? He came out of his shoes and swung at a ball and missed it. And pretty much gave up having a man on second with nobody out.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was the most amazing analysis because it's like whoever says you got to take on 3-2. I mean, you got to protect the plate. You got to try and get on base all you can. And this guy was like, just put the bat on your shoulder and take it. And that's like the hardest thing for that guy in the world to do. But, I mean, I think it's a great lesson for, just sometimes you got to take it. You can't go chasing, extra miles.
Don't go chasing bases.
Don't go chasing bases. Don't go chase the balls.
Yep.
Swing at strikes. Swing at what's in front of you.
Yep.
Oh, man, there's going to be so many good baseball analogies coming over the next 2 weeks.
Oh, God, I know. I can't. When is it over?
Come on, man. Who you picking? Oh, speaking of picking, has everybody entered the how many people we got entered on the Kona contest?
Oh, I had to unfollow notifications on that thing. I don't even know.
Okay,
I'll check it out.
We've got a little contest going on the Facebook closed group about
I'll
picking the podium for the pros.
Yep, in order.
In order and or not in order. I mean, there's different levels of. Didn't you have different levels of?
Yeah, I think
ways
so,
to
maybe.
win.
Yeah, regardless, it's going to be tough.
Mm-hmm. So once again, if you're waiting to get in the closed group, send us an email, crushingiron@gmail.com, and we'll make sure you get in. If you like the podcast, if you've learned a lot from the podcast, if it's helped you get through some races and through some tough times in training or whatever the case may be, you can always support us at Patreon, which is a monthly sort of subscription. We have a couple of tiers. One's like $3.28 a month. The other one's $13.28 a month, or $13.26 a month, $3.26 a month, and then you can also give us, something else, a custom donation if you like, but that's a monthly charge, and it really helps us kind of with expenses and motivation for keeping these things going and doling out tons of information from what we hear.
Yep.
We also have crushingiron.com, which is the website. You can find all the stuff we talk about on here, including coaching and prices and swim analysis and information about our camps for next year, which are selling out quick. And videos and all kinds of stuff is on there.
All kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm. This is
All
podcast
right.
number 204 from Crushing Iron. I am Mike, and this is Coach Robbie joining me. I am the co-host and color man.
And I'm the other co-host. And we will be in Louisville. Look forward to seeing and meeting a lot of you there next week. Be safe this weekend. Don't do anything stupid. And rest and relax. And we will check you on Monday.
Yeah, just relax.
Just relax.
Calm down.
Well, let's get off before we go another baseball analogy, because that was about as boring as watching baseball.
Oh, man. You're the kind of guy who just doesn't like chess.
Chess, I don't like watching paint dry, which is what I feel like baseball is.
Man. All right, maybe I'll have to write the book and see if anybody else likes it. Baseball meets triathlon.
Yeah. I don't need
Hey,
to be on the pre-order
if you have
list.
trouble sleeping before a race, that'd be a good one to read.
Yeah, that's right. Read that, put on some NASCAR, and you're off to sleep.
Yeah, get sleep. Get some sleep this week.
Sleep. Yeah. Have a good weekend. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on Monday.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Down, 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 be out.